Now, this is the story that Hannah Claire sent this to me yesterday. And it says, Katy Perry ditches California for Kentucky, says that Hollywood is not America. You don't say. That's fascinating. Imagine my shock hearing somebody acknowledge something so very, very true. What's funny about this is we talk about bubbles a lot. We talk about people living in their own bubbles. And I think even we here tend to be you're not immune to that. Confirmation bias is a thing, and like you have to be wary of like if you're hearing too much of the same opinion. One of the great things about working with Mary is that we don't agree on almost anything. That's
almost on principle. I disagree with everything you say.
That's basically right, and she's an authoritarian, so
we won't get too far into that territory.
So it says you have to be careful to acknowledge, like, and it seems like Katy Perry and a bunch of other actors, probably more so for tax reasons, are understanding now that Hollywood is not America. So it says Katy Perry is the latest American to leave high-tax California for a Republican-led state, and she couldn't be happier. I'm guessing she didn't care that it was a Republican-led state.
Yeah, I don't think she even
She just found that out.
She cares that the tax what the tax laws are there. So it says, during a recent interview on Chelsea Handler's Dear Chelsea podcast, the 37-year-old musical star described how happy she was to have ditched Hollywood for Kentucky, especially as a young mother. I'm finding a lot of stories lately about celebrities like discovering motherhood. I didn't put it on the list for today, but we talked about Rebel Wilson getting skinny, and that's a big thing that people talk about because Jordan Peterson is a thing, and as you know, he does not want fatties.
He said, "LOL, no, thank you."
No, thank you. So Rebel Wilson lost a bunch of weight, and at first she's like, she just didn't really acknowledge it. She's like, it's like my body. When you make your career on being overweight, it kind of becomes who you are. But when she said when she lost the weight, basically she said that she did so because her doctor encouraged her to do so because she wants to be a mother. So I like the idea that they're at least pushing like the values of motherhood and like wanting to become moms now in a way that's a little bit past due.
I mean, I think that the Kardashian Jenners are strangely pro motherhood but anti fatherhood.
Yes.
So
half a family.
Yeah, they're doing a little bit of the work, but I like
fathers,
this story.
just a lot of them.
Yeah.
Well, the problem with that is also it's like it sets unreasonable expectations as to what a single mother can do. Like when you have all that financial backing and you have a family as deep as theirs and you can afford all the nannies in the world and you have all the resources in the world. It's very easy to be boss.
It looks glamorous.
It's easy to be a boss babe business owner when you got your business from your name.
Yeah.
Right. And you have a ton of babysitters.
But then when you're, living middle income and you're a single mom, that's a whole nother ballgame. But she's learning here. And I like the idea that, one of the reasons I love doing this show is because I think people who live in the political space underestimate how important these people as irrelevant as we may find them, as stupid as we may find them. These people are indispensable to shaping public discourse because they have millions and millions of followers and fans. They shape culture. So to see ones with names moving towards a culture that you may respect, whether you respect their political opinions, if they can instill even one decent value, maybe that helps change the spectrum down the line. So when you try to dismiss what celebrities are to our culture, because they shouldn't be revered just for being famous.
Right.
But you have to understand that when they have values you don't agree with, those values are being signal boosted to a lot of other people, and you don't have any say in that. So you can't discount how important they are.
If they do go against the grain, that's more valuable.
Yes.
Yeah. Isn't it politics is downstream from culture? Is that the quote?
That's what everyone says.
I think that was Andrew Breitbart.
That was a Breitbart
quote. So
people care more about the Kardashians than like who's the press secretary right now. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
So it says, I'm like living in Kentucky, and I have for almost a month now, and that's quite an amazing experience because it reminds you that Hollywood is not America, Perry said, according to Fox News. The pop legend went on to discuss how leaving major urban areas helps celebrities better connect to everyday Americans. You need to remember that, Perry noted, because I think you can understand people better. Says, yeah, right. She says, yeah, right. It's nice to get outside of what you know and be normal. And your reality, Handler replied. I always hate reading the quotes because I can't read them very well. I apologize. It's not the same thing as when it's written.
Can you read it as Chelsea Handler?
I don't do a Chelsea Handler impression.
Oh.
So it says, yeah, I mean, they're living in a bubble of sorts. We're living in a bubble. Our bubbles are completely opposite, but they're interesting, Perry said. Handler went on to charge Perry with having grown up in a religious bubble, citing her family's Christian faith. I don't know if she remains...
Wait, can we talk about that real quick?
Sure.
She was Westboro Baptist type.
Really?
No,
Like,
she was Pentecostal.
She used to, like, I'm saying type, like they kind of would go out and like protest at like rock concerts and stuff.
What's
yeah.
the Katy Perry, like, isn't that like the classic story of like the person who grows up in the sheltered home and has to go out and rebel because cool.
And it's real. You can see.
She found
the
America in
stereotype
Hollywood.
is real.
But then, it seems like we've talked a lot lately about how people are coming back around to faith because of there's a lot of postmodernism in the world today that makes the ground under you feel shaky and very malleable and makes it hard to know what's real, what isn't.
Yeah.
And outside of having strong beliefs and some type of moral compass, it can be very scary to see a world where up is down, left is right, and all this stuff. So it feels like people are kind of maybe finding their way back to that. I don't know if I buy that that's the reason here. I think it's more likely that she's like, yeah, these people are nice and I like the lower taxes.
Yeah, I don't think her move had anything to do with like spiritual reasons. I think she just realized that what's important to her at this stage in her life as she's getting older is family.
That's a good thing.
It was
like
it is a good thing.
Definitely.
But it was like funny to me that this article said she's a young mother because she literally had her first baby at 35.
So
is that what is considered a young mother now?
They're redefining young.
Yeah, no, that I just saw this from somebody, a friend of mine the other day. Made a comment about how they I'm not having kids with somebody like this, and I was like, and she's in her 30s, so she's not worried. Like she's got kids already, but she's like was talking about kids, and it's like she wasn't worried about like not being able to have more kids, but it's a fact that it gets harder the older you get. And I don't know if what Katy Perry's story is as far as how she had kids, but it can be very difficult the older you get without in vitro costs a lot of money if it's not working the natural way, but she can afford it. But
now that
the
she's
average
saving all that money on taxes.
That's what Kourtney Kardashian has been talking about, is her like IVF journey. Like that's the story of all these celebrities who just wanted to have fun and
didn't
spend
the doctor
money.
tell her that she actually couldn't, like physically, like it would like maybe even kill her if she had more children naturally?
Really?
I think I read that somewhere. Yeah.
Why would they say that?
I don't know.
Said that
if
she had them naturally.
If she had them naturally.
But if she had them with IVF, she would be able to.
I'm not sure the whole
That's
thing.
very-
There was something.
Weird.
There was something.
That
health there.
sounds like you're trying to sell something,
Maybe,
dude.
maybe.
But if you want to have them
Alright.
safely, have them with this.
Yes. Here's
that's
my product.
A stork dropped him on her.
Says Perry is not the only American to escape from major Democratic-led cities in recent years. In fact, more than half of the U.S. counties lost residents over the course of the decade, with almost all growth being represented in metropolitan areas. Yeah, people are getting the hell out of the city. Who the hell wouldn't? I had a list here of like a bunch of them. The first one that came to my mind was a recent one, which was Ozzy Osbourne and Sharon Osbourne. We're moving back to London. The taxes here are insane. We're out of here. James Vanderbeek moved to Texas in 2020. Who was the other big ones? Obviously, Joe Rogan moved to Texas.
Kanye West has
Wyoming
property.
Post Malone's in Utah.
In Las Vegas or Utah?
I think he's in. I thought it was Utah.
Okay, he's a huge 2A guy. Post Malone is like
Malone's rad.
Yeah, so he's a very big 2A guy. Yeah. Somebody have to put in the chat whether that was Utah or Las Vegas. I thought it was Las Vegas, but I could be wrong. So Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, but it was like Nicole Kidman, Keith Urban, and like Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani. So like the guys are probably like, let's get the hell out of the city and move out of here.
That's what Orlando Bloom was telling Katy Perry, like, let's just leave.
Yeah. Mark Ruffalo should be forced to live in a big city because you get what you deserve, as they say. Yep. Sandra Bullock, New Orleans. Jeff Daniels moved like home to like Michigan and stuff like that. So it's like they're like, especially in an age now where like digital communication is so fast, you don't have to do all your meetings face to face. And if you have the means and the wealth, you can fly in and out. Like, imagine the money you spend on flights, you just use on flights and save on taxes wherever you're living.
Mm-hmm. And what Katy was saying was that she's staying in Kentucky, but she's still in her Las Vegas residency contract. So she's just going to be performing as like an alternate when needed in Las Vegas every once in a while. So it's not like she's just abandoning her career entirely.
Yeah.
But then again, that's also the reason she cited for not wanting to have another kid anytime soon.
The Kyle Chandler one is interesting. If you haven't seen Friday Night Lights, the TV show or the movie, please go and watch that. Those are fantastic examples of entertainment from a bygone era here in America. It says, raised as a good Southern boy, according to college pal Trent Bross, Friday Night Lights star Kyle Chandler prefers to keep his distance from Hollywood's narcissism. That seems to be the kind of escalating tension is like, look, they're vapid, they're self-centered. And the workhorse actors, the ones who are always working but maybe don't live in the spotlight, wouldn't want to be around that type of environment all the time. I wouldn't want to either if I lived there. It seems like it would be just kind of demoralizing to be around that type of, especially when you're young. It makes more sense because you're like hungry to gain traction. Yeah. But as you get older and you've built a base level of income and you're doing better, why wouldn't you want to get away and raise your family someplace you felt more comfortable doing so?
It's strange because it's been a long time since someone of Katy Perry's caliber has had that foundation to start a life somewhere else. It's been a long time since she has been like mega rich. So really what convinced her to move away is something else. It's something like, as she said, it's something primal in her monkey brain.
Yeah, well, it's like as much as they try to fight it, as much as they try to pretend like biology and evolution and all of these imperatives don't exist, they do exist. And the celebrities are like fighting it. They're like, no.
Yeah, and you know something interesting too? Her marriage with Russell Brand, I was looking into this earlier, ended partly because she felt he was pressuring her to have kids too soon.
That's another long-term point where they're always like, I mean, this comes up in like other topics that have been popular lately. Roe v. Wade, it's like they talk about how they had to do that because they had to have their career first, and that just breaks my heart. Like when you see people choose that path over that. But for this, it's like, by the way, Russell Brand is like my favorite person to listen to.
He also cited her commercial success and unwillingness to do activism. It was a reason for their divorce.
He said that.
Yeah.
I wonder what he means by that.
Probably something different than you would assume.
Yeah, like I'm a member, because remember, I have a slogan here, and it's like, it's not enough to just not be an activist. You should be actively anti-activist. We should make fun of them
they probably meant something different in like 2011.
Yes, armchair activism needs to kick rocks. So that's I don't see anybody in Hollywood, because that's like a stepping stone now. This is coming out like every actor that once their career hits like a peak and then starts to valley, they start to, it's like, and they're an activist for various organizations, and that's like it's almost like a sign that it's the end times for them, that their careers coming to an end.
It would be more accurate to just say they're a philanthropist for blank charities.
Yeah, that's the way I would. I mean, I would much rather, especially because like it's always for like the most generic of ideas. It's like, I'm a women's rights activist. I'm a, like, we had the one the other day. It was like we had a great time talking about the animal rights activist, the PETA guy, because I'm like, that's a throwback. Like, I like it.
I liked the vibe.
Let's get back to the people chaining themselves to trees to keep them from getting cut down and throwing.
That's real activism right there.
Actually, getting out of your house to do it is activism. Yeah. Armchair So maybe I should amend my slogan. Say, it's not enough to just not be an armchair activist. You have to be actively anti-armchair activist, because it's dorky, and though some say that memes can change the world, your hashtags and slogans are not changing the world. They're just making people annoyed at you. Yeah. So it's they go further down into like these 5 states that have had the largest population gains in the last few years, which is Utah, Montana, Arizona, South Carolina, and Idaho. Like, imagine being so disillusioned with Hollywood. You're like, I'm on my way to Idaho. Well, like, I am out of here.
Now they're just gonna ruin those states.
And that's the problem. They're gonna go there, and they're gonna act the same, and then those will slowly turn. And
I hope not. But I think I haven't looked at these articles as closely, but did they mention COVID at all? Like, the geography of our country has changed multiple times because of a virus or people escaping a plague, Yeah. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Yes.
And I think this is another one of those things. And maybe Katy Perry's situation was like, I need to get out of here because it's a dystopia under COVID policy.
I think James Vanderbeek said COVID was a big, and Rogan did as well. Like just the policies were so.
Especially if you have kids.
Yeah, it was preventing them from being able to work. It was preventing in like Hollywood. The worst part about that was like Hollywood got all the exemptions.
Right.
And all the small businesses didn't, and that was infuriating.
Right. Like in Hollywood, it wasn't in Hollywood or LA where that lady had to shut down her restaurant.
Yep.
And right outside, craft services from like whatever film they were filming was able to be open, but she was
it's exactly the point that was being made in that movie we watched, The Bubble.
The Bubble,
like,
which
that
everybody
was the whole point, is that all the exemptions were being given to Hollywood to do their work, while everyone else was like having to abide by the rules.
Everyone hated that movie but me. I had a great time.
It was okay, but I mean, I liked the message, but it was like not very funny.
It was. I think it's because I it's like one of those people where Pedro Pascal is one of those people that I actually love his work but can't stand him as like a. But that's the you have to learn how to separate art from artist.
Wait, you can do that still?
Sometimes.
Wow.
What I found, this is a really interesting phenomenon. If it's their older work, I can ignore it.
Yeah.
But if it's their newer work, which coincides with the time when they're saying this stuff, I have a harder time ignoring it.
So, Ezra Miller's band,
no,
Sons of an Illustrious Father. Let's talk about it.
No, he gets he just makes bad music. So
I just think if the art is good, I really don't care who they are, what they say.
Most of I've been rewatching The Wire, and that's got Wendell Pierce in it, and Wendell Pierce is like, he made some comment about like just stupid stuff, and I expect like after Youngkin got after that, we're going political. We need to not go political. But the point is,
tell us more about this.
No, you have to be able to separate art from artists.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're liable to miss great work. Yes. What I found is like it's harder to ignore art from artists when it's the director and the writer, because it's going to come out in their writing. The actor is portraying a role. Right. So the actor, he can be one thing on screen, and if he does his job well, be a completely different person, behind the camera, when the camera's off. But a writer, if they have certain sensibilities, it's going to come out in their writing most of the time, and that's a lot harder for me to ignore.
For sure.
I can't think of any great examples of that off the top of my head, but
everything. The past 5 years.
Everything.
Well, but I don't. But people, they don't get the attention. The writers and the directors don't get the attention.
Even in the new Batman, there are lines here and there where you see the narrative being
I was
injected.
not a fan of. I said meh when we saw it, and I was like, yeah, it was good. And I watched it again, and I liked it less the second time.
Trash.
Perhaps
I like him as Batman. I'll say that I do like him as Batman.
Batman.
I like vampires, and he's like a little vampire. But the writing of that movie was just atrocious.
He hates that movie so much that he's like taking a chance to he's found a way to bring it up every time we talk.
Thank you for noticing.
Even when we're not.
I'll be here every Thursday to talk about Batman. Everybody, if you hate that movie or you love that movie, let's get on.
Yeah, either come here to agree or come here to argue heavily.
Please.
So were there any super chats?
Yes. Waffles Sensei said, "Money printer go burr like the Federal Reserve." So true.
You'll see that this is all inflation right here. Yeah. This money's not going to be worth
this is happening at the same time as like the national debt clock is going on forever in New York City.
Thanks for the gas money, y'all.
My original idea for this segment was like after each episode we can tally up like all the however much is there and talk about what we could get on it. But every time it's just beer money. Like you can't get any because every episode as it gets worse. Like you just like and it's beer money, and like the next day you make more money, but somehow you can get less beer. Yeah. And that would
at
that
the
feels
end
like
of every segment, this buys you less gas.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I'm starting to stack it up, so thank you. I have gas money now, actually.
Utah here and can confirm they're taking over. Thank you, Hava Owens.
That's not good. Did anybody know if that was? Did anybody fact check me on Post Malone? I'm literally just hanging on to it.
I don't know.
I want to know.
But
now.
I will say real quick while I look it up is Post Malone's Nirvana set he did on YouTube during COVID was incredible.
I haven't heard it.
He kind of bothers me because he performs super drunk, super drunk.
I feel bad for him.
Where he's not even performing well.
You think there have been a couple of concerts.
Or is it just an act?
Is it?
I
Why
don't
would
know.
you pretend to be?
I don't
to
know.
be
There was
like,
there was actually a bunch of comedians in the past who had a whole
wasted.
act like that, and they were sober.
Dane Cook, or not Dane Cook, Dane, Mitch Hedberg had to perform like you. There was such a stark difference between Mitch Hedberg sober and Mitch Hedberg.
yeah, it's Utah. He has a fallout
It's
shelter
Utah.
in Utah.
Okay, so it was Utah.
Wait. He has a fallout shelter in Utah.
Yeah.
Perfect. I
Well-
like him even more now.
Well, yeah, it was like he's like building a compound.
More
there.
people have a fallout shelter than you think.
Oh, I have one.
So it's like Mitch Hedberg would be like really tense. Like I kind of channel my own Mitch Hedberg in a way, but I can.
If you had to sit backwards,
If-
face
if-
the wall,
yes.
to be Mitch.
Yeah, so like Mitch Hedberg kind of had this really stiff performance, but it was part of his act. Like it made the most sense to be like that. So.
And real quick, I know we don't have to go veer too far off, but you went to his wake, I believe.
Yes, because I'm from that
Yeah,
part of
it's
Minnesota. So
amazing.
we skipped school in high school and went to Mitch Hedberg's wake.
amazing.
That is a story I still can tell to this day. That's a wild one. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.